This year's holidays are definitely going to be different, aren't they? They're going to be smaller and more intimate and maybe not as lavish as we used to have. But that does not mean that we cannot have fabulous food, great wine pairings, and an absolutely beautiful table. And that's why I invited these three to join us tonight. They're the best of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. And I'm just so thrilled to introduce our three guests tonight: Shae Frichette from Frichette Winery, Sabrina Tinsley from La Spiga in Seattle, and Nisha Klein from Fleurish. These three women are amazing, and I am just so honored, you three, that you joined us tonight for Revel 11 and said yes. I called Shae and reached out to her originally, and she goes, absolutely. And she goes, I'll help and I'll pull this group together, and she's going to be our moderator tonight, and I'm just so thrilled. Welcome, Shae. It's great to have you, and you look beautiful in your red, I have to say.
Well, thank you, Joni. So, you know, I'm a winemaker and red wine is my thing. So I had to bring out a red shirt. And ladies, I'm
Absolutely.
so thrilled that you're joining. Joni, thanks for having me and allowing me to do this.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to have you, Shae. Your enthusiasm is contagious, I have to say, and I just love how you just bring it on. So go for it.
Well, so it's not just me tonight as a winemaker and kind of talking wine, but I have a couple sidekicks with me. Sabrina Tinsley, who is an executive chef for one of the most amazing Italian restaurants in Seattle, and she is a hero of mine because first off, I'm from South Carolina, and she's telling me about these beautiful Italian dishes that she makes, and I can barely pronounce them. So she's going to help us all out tonight and looking absolutely fabulous and making an amazing dinner for our families in place this holiday season. And of course, Nisha's with us tonight with Flourish out of Seattle. You know, I used to think that I could never set a beautiful table. And Nisha's just like, you know what, whenever there's a little bit of wind, like creep on over to like your neighbor's yard and pick stuff up. Let them think that you're cleaning, helping clean their yards, but you're getting things to set up your table. So she's going to give us all those amazing tips tonight. And I'm stoked. So hopefully you have a little bit of wine and you're eating something because we are really going to give you some amazing tips for how to wow not only yourself, but whoever you're going to be hosting for the holiday season. So if you don't have your selves on mute, go ahead and mute yourselves. There's going to be plenty of time to ask questions. We love using the chat, by the way. So if you have questions or comments, then please drop them in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on them so that I'm asking questions. And the first question I have for you, just so we kind of get used to playing around with the chat, I want to know if you've ever made pasta from scratch. So if you have before, go ahead and put a Y in the chat for yes. And if you, oh, somebody already is you. Okay, well, I guess it's just me. Can someone put in, oh, there we go. Natalie, thank you. I was going to go, wow. So those of you who have, Sabrina's going to show you how to take it to the next level. And if you're like me, you're putting an N in the chat. You've never made pasta just from start to finish, then you're in for a treat to see just how easy it can be with Sabrina. So again, ask all the questions you want. We'll keep a look. I see some folks still coming into the chat saying yes and no. So it's going to be a real treat tonight. So let me tell you what I'm drinking, and we're going to jump over to Sabrina so that she can let us know how to make this amazing dish. So, of course, you know, as I shared, I'm a winemaker right here in Washington. I live over on the east side, on the other side of the Cascades from a lot of you over on the west side. I make mostly reds. I'm drinking our Merlot tonight, which is 100% Merlot from Red Mountain. And it's a wine that pairs very nicely with what Sabrina's going to be making tonight. So Merlot is one of the most commonly grown varietals here in the state of Washington. And I love making it. Love, love, love making Merlot. Sabrina, I am ready to just chat about what you decided would go great with this wine. So girl, take it away.
All right, thank you, Shae. Tonight we are going to pair with Shae's Merlot a dish called Tagliatelle al Ragu. So this is the tagliatelle noodles. So I've already made a few here, so you can see what they look like. Very easy, very simple pasta, paired with our classic ragu bolognese. So very classic dish, very traditional from Emilia Romagna, and we serve it here at the restaurant. And the reason why I selected this dish, because it's a great, if you haven't done pasta before, which I saw that a lot of you have made pasta before, so that's pretty amazing. But if you haven't made it before, this is a good starting point because it's very simple. And if you have in your cupboard some all-purpose flour, very simple, some eggs, and some salt, just a pinch of salt, then you're already there. So this is something that you can make very easily. And I encourage everybody, I know that probably, I would say a good 50% of you have a pasta maker in your cupboard and you've made pasta one time and then you've put it away and you haven't made pasta again. And the reason why I know that, I'm calling you out and put it in the chat if that's you, because I've taught many cooking classes and that's the case with most of my students. So I invite you this holiday season as a treat to yourself and as a treat to your family as you celebrate at home, because eating is a celebration. I truly believe that. Make some pasta. And the wonderful thing about making pasta is you can make it ahead of time and freeze it. Bring it out of your freezer and cook it. It is a, let's say, altogether an 8-minute meal. Of course, that doesn't include cooking the sauce. So you can, I have provided a simple recipe for making your own ragu at home, or you can just buy a bottle of ragu in the store, or better yet, we sell our ragu here at the restaurant and you can come pick it up from us or have it delivered. We are offering delivery now at this point. So if you go on our website at laspiga.com and you go to our store, you will be able to purchase some ragu and even some frozen tagliatelle if you're not in the mood for making it yourself, and then you can finish it at home. So without further ado, I say we get started on making pasta. And we are gonna start with making the dough, and then we're gonna roll out the tagliatelle, cut it, and then I will cook it so that you can see how to do all of that at home. And I don't suspect that anybody's gonna follow along, and that's okay. But at least if you see it, you'll be able to better do it yourself at home. So we're gonna start with some flour on our board, and I estimate about 3/4 of a cup, maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup per egg. And typically 1 egg serves 1 person. That's 1 serving. So, so here we go with that's number 2. And number 3, not quite a full cup.
Sabrina, while you're doing that, real quick question for you.
Yes.
Someone was asking about gluten-free flour. Well, you mentioned all-purpose. Would other types of flour work for this, gluten-free or almond flour or anything else like that? Thoughts on that?
As a matter of fact, thank you for asking. As a matter of fact, yes, we do make a gluten-free pasta. There is a flour blend that I really enjoy. It's called Manini's. Maybe you've heard of it. And they make a basic all-purpose flour. And we make pasta in the exact same way that we make pasta from regular AP flour. So you can absolutely make it with gluten-free flour. And we do sell that at the restaurant as well. So right now I have made a well in the flour. And I'm gonna go ahead and crack my eggs into the well. And at some point, while I'm mixing, I will have my assistant do kind of an overhead shot so you can get a closer look at what I'm doing. So that's 2 eggs. Yeah, come on, bring that on over.
All right.
Assistant.
There you go. Assistant.
That's my daughter.
Yes,
Helping out. Little pinch of salt. Hi, Yvette. I see your name popping up. I have.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi. Is Carla with you?
She is, but she's a little occupied right now, but she might try and join me later.
Awesome. Good to see you. Also joining us tonight, I know my sister Trish is here. My mom is watching. And I I know Pasha Scott is in the audience. So thank you everybody for joining. And I won't be able to see everybody, unfortunately. If I know you, just give a shout out. I'm so glad to have such an amazing audience here today. So as you can see, I'm just whisking the eggs as if they were scrambled eggs in the well. And I'm just pulling in a little bit of flour at a time. So what you want to be careful of is you don't want to rupture the wall around the egg while it's still liquid, because it will come flowing out onto the counter and possibly onto the floor if you're not careful. So as you're whisking, just be cautious of that. All righty. So it's getting a little bit denser, a little denser. Now's a great time to ask questions if you have any, because this is going to take me just a minute.
Sabrina, someone was wondering, they wanted to know like where you can purchase, is it Marnini's gluten-free flour? Do you have any recommendations?
You know, that's a good question. I have seen their, you know, I first became familiar with them at the farmer's market. They were at the farmer's market, and that's how I knew. I have not, honestly, have not seen them in the grocery stores. So I don't know if they're still selling in the grocery stores. Of course, I get mine from a large purveyor, the distributor. So I can find that out and make it available to everybody through Revel 11.
Awesome.
Or maybe one of our viewers knows.
Well, if anyone does know, drop it in the chat. Sabrina, I've seen like pastas that are flavored. Is this a step where you could put in other things for pasta, or is that done at some other point in the process?
That's a great question. Yes, you can flavor your pasta and add all kind of vibrant colors to it. If I were to make a spinach pasta, I would add it right now. If I were to make a beet pasta, I would add it at this moment. And essentially, you're going to treat your other ingredients as if it were one egg. So if I were to incorporate spinach, I would use about 1/4 cup of very finely chopped spinach and replace 1 egg with that amount. Other things like, let's say herbs or something, if you want to fold some herbs into your dough, you can do that while you're rolling it out. And you'll just sprinkle a little bit of the herbs on the surface of your pasta, and then just fold it, as you'll see we're going to do it momentarily, and incorporate it that way, just on the surface. Herbs can also be incorporated at this point as well, but just to demonstrate that you can do both. All right, so it's getting really dense.
How to pronounce this.
It's very sticky. See how sticky it is? So I am going to start working it with my hands, but I do want to have plenty of flour on the surface when I do this. And just with my fingertips and very lightly, I'm going to start kneading in a little bit more of the flour. Now, just to throw this out there as well, you can also mix this dough in your KitchenAid if you have a KitchenAid, and probably a lot of you have tried using a KitchenAid even for rolling out the pasta. So this dough can be made in your KitchenAid if you don't want to mix it by hand. I would just advise that you add less flour than more flour, because you can always add more, but it's more challenging to take the flour out once you start incorporating the egg. So you want your dough to be nice and stiff, but not overly dense. So right now I'm working in some extra flour. It's getting stiffer. And I can start kneading. I'm going kind of fast, but essentially the process is turn up and then roll forward, turn up, roll forward. And that's about 1/4 turn each time. And you want to keep it kind of in this round shape, as you can see. Just keep it kind of rounded as you're working it. And go ahead and place in the chat if you've ever had any difficulties that you'd like me to help you troubleshoot. You can go ahead and place that in the chat right now, and we'll talk about that too.
There's a question already, Sabrina, about what is the hardest thing you had to learn about making pasta?
That's a good question. I think probably just the balance of ingredients. You know, it's really tempting to put a lot of flour, like pack a ton of flour into your dough so that it's easier to work with and to roll through. But little by little, I've come to understand that if you use less flour, it may be more challenging to work with as you're rolling it through, but the texture of the pasta is so much better. So you don't want it to be overly dense. You can, you know, it'll hold together just fine in the water because it has the egg as the binder too. Both flour and egg are binders. So it'll, if you're able to work with it, use less flour, and then before you cut it, you should time it so that you have enough time to dry the sheets of pasta dough before you cut it. And that way it won't stick together. All right. So I would probably, I'm going to stop here, but if I were to, I'm not going to use this dough because I already made some. I would probably incorporate just a little bit more. And how I can tell is it's really soft right now. And as I press my fingers into the dough, I don't know if you can see that, but it's still quite sticky on the inside. So if I leave it like this, as it sits, it's gonna rest. Dough always rests, you know, it relaxes as it sits there. And if I leave it this sticky, I know that I'm gonna have a really challenging time in here. So it is, you know, I realize I just said don't put too much flour in, but there is a really delicate balance of how much you should put in. So I know for a fact that this would have needed a little bit more dough, excuse me, flour. So now with the dough that I made about half an hour ago, because it's a good idea to let your dough sit for about 30 minutes. I'm gonna clean up my board here.
Sabrina, question for you.
Yes.
So at this point, so you have your dough that you made 30 minutes ago. What if you were making a whole lot and wanted to keep, would you freeze it at this point, or would you take it through the rest of the process before freezing it?
Well, I would take it through the whole process before freezing it. But that's just me personally, because this dough freezes just fine. So if you wanted to make the dough, do it step by step. Make the dough one day, you can freeze it. And I would suggest freezing it actually, Shae, so I'm glad you brought that up, because if you don't, leaving it in the refrigerator overnight, it'll be fine. Nothing's gonna happen to it, but it is gonna start to discolor and become a little bit gray because it tends to oxidize. Okay, so here we are with our dough. And I don't know if you can tell, but it is a little bit lumpy. But since it's been sitting there, I know that once I knead it, it's gonna smooth out a little bit. There we go. So now it's nice and smooth. I'm gonna cut off a piece of that. And I'm gonna start rolling it through and start to get my sheets of dough. So we wanna start out on the biggest setting here. So depending on what machine you have, this is Imperia. And the first setting, I believe, is, oh, it's not marked anymore. It's worn off. But some settings, sometimes the biggest setting, the widest setting will be a 1, and sometimes the widest setting will be an 8. It really just kind of depends one way or another. But you can always tell if you look into the rollers, you can always tell when it's nice and wide. So you want to get to your widest setting as you start to roll it out.
The numbers are over here.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, it says.
Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so the Imperia starts on 6. All right, and I want to get it just a little bit thinner. So what I'm doing with this first round is I'm shaping my dough and smoothing it out. So now I have an oval, and what I'm going for is a rectangle. So I'm going to do a trifold here. And then I'm going to start on the widest setting again and roll it on through. And that's already looking good. It's smooth. And it's rectangular, but I'm gonna do it one more time. So I always do this at least 3 times, and you kind of want to press it down, because feeding it into, even though it is the widest setting, feeding it into the dough sheeter can be a little bit challenging. Okay,
Sabrina,
so
what
here
about
we
for newbies? Where would we get a pasta machine like this? And what do you think we would, if we're just starting out, do you have any recommendations for what we can expect to pay for one of those?
Yes, pasta makers are available online for sure. And Sur La Table, even though I think their brick and mortar store here locally is not open anymore, but they are definitely available online. And last time I bought one, it was about $80. So it may have gone up a little bit since then. I'm not exactly sure. What's that, Mimi?
There's a way to make it without a pasta maker.
Oh yeah, so if you don't, if you want to try pasta and you don't have time to buy a pasta maker, you can always make this same dough and roll it out with a rolling pin. So that's definitely a different option. It'll take you a little bit longer to get it nice and thin, but I assure you it's going to be well worth the time that you spend to make it, because hand-rolled pasta is supposed to be some of the best pasta that you can make. As I'm rolling this out, I don't know if you noticed, but I am going one notch at a time, one notch thinner every time that I roll it through. So recently I've had several people tell me, and this is the first year that I've heard about this, that they've been instructed to roll it out several times on one notch before moving to the next notch. I haven't found that to be the case. I always just roll it through once on each setting, except for, of course, the first setting, which I have to roll it through several times to get the shape and to make it nice and smooth. All right, and here we are on the very last setting. So once again, each pasta maker is different. So this pasta maker, in order to get the thickness that I prefer, I have to roll it to the last setting, but that's not always the case with each machine. Some machines go a lot thinner than this, but I don't know if you can see how thick that is, but to me, this is the perfect thickness for tagliatelle. So I have my one sheet, and this looks a little bit long, so I'm gonna cut it in half. And at this point, if you had time, I would just suggest that you let your sheets dry for approximately 15 minutes, and you can rotate them once, just so that they can have a chance to dry on both sides. But since we don't have time, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the sheets of tagliatelle. And so I switched over to the largest setting. So this is the classic die that comes with any machine. You have two. One is the tagliatelle or fettuccine, and the other is tagliolini, so which is the smaller type of pasta. So we're going to be making tagliatelle today, so I went ahead and cut tagliatelle, but I can also show you what tagliolini would look like. Those would be a lot smaller. Oops, I have to switch the handle, otherwise that's not going to feed through. All righty. And then this would be tagliolini. So if you want more of a spaghetti style of pasta, you can do the tagliolini. And these are separating nicely, even though I haven't dried the pasta sometimes. Sometimes they'll stick together a little bit, but it still works, and that's the thing also that I want to emphasize. Here, let me just have a look at you guys. It still works, even if the pasta is not perfect, it's okay. Once you cook it, I guarantee it'll taste great. So don't worry too much about details, especially when you're first starting out, because this will, as you practice, you'll start to notice things yourself on how to better make it, to improve your pasta. Let's put it that way. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and cook the pasta. So I have my pan over here.
And for those of you wondering how to pronounce this dish, so Sabrina, so very slowly. How do you pronounce it again?
All right, it is okay. It's confusing because the word has a G in it, but the G is actually silent, and so it's pronounced tagliatelle. So the GLI is a common sound in Italian that is kind of like a Y and an L at the same time. So tagliatelle.
Tagliatelle. So I want everyone right now, you sit, most of you have your cameras off and you're on mute, so you don't have to unmute yourselves. But on the count of 3, I want you to say this so loud that whoever else is in your home, they know that you're going to make this for them. So Sabrina, pronounce it one more time so we hear it.
Tagliatelle.
All right, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Tagliatelle. I don't think everybody did it that time. We're going to try this again. All right, everybody, let's practice on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Tagliatelle.
Oh, amazing. All right. So if you could say it, you could do it, because Sabrina is giving us the tips and the know-how on how to do it. So, and if you have any questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat as Sabrina is boiling this pasta and finishing it up.
Yes, let's get a close-up of this, Mimi, if you don't mind. So now I just dropped, if you buy pasta frozen from La Spiga, you are going to keep it frozen until you use it.
It's a little tall.
And it's, okay, well, maybe we can see it, maybe we can't. So, but once you, so you're gonna drop it into the pasta water already or still frozen. And then you're just gonna separate it with your tongs or a spatula, just to make sure that it cooks evenly. So that's cooking. The water it should be at a rolling boil, and it should be salted really well. So here we've done, for 1 gallon of water, we put 2 tablespoons of salt in the water. So, okay. Technical difficulties. I'll be right with you.
Well, no worries. We've got a question. So how long do you cook this for?
So this takes about 5 minutes to cook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5 minutes, or even a little bit less. I would say 5 to 7 minutes. It really kind of depends on your preference. 5 to 7 minutes to cook from frozen. If you're doing fresh pasta, like if I took this pasta instead, if I took my freshly cut pasta and put that in the water, it would probably only take about 3 to 4 minutes. So, but it is really based on your preference. So if you like a more tender pasta, obviously you can cook it a little bit longer. If you like it super al dente, you'll cook it a little bit less.
Wow. So you made this, you are basically giving us tips on how to look like a rock star. I've always been so impressed when folks are just like, you know, I make my own pasta. I do it myself. So we can kind of do this ourselves and then also sneak and purchase it from you. Now, question is, they can pick this up from the restaurant if they're picking it, if they're buying it from you, and you're going to be looking at shipping as well?
At the moment, we don't ship. I know why you're saying that. So we're going to be doing a trial soon. Shae is going to get her sample of pasta, frozen pasta and frozen sauce, and she's going to tell me how it arrives to her. If that trial works, and we'll do a couple more trials, we'll probably also ship it. Unless you're talking about delivery, we do have a delivery service for local delivery, and you could definitely order that through our website.
Well, the benefit to me having you ship me some, Sabrina, really is that I'm going to also make my own and I can see if I got it right or not. Awesome.
Pictures, because I want to know how it comes out.
Well, I'm going to just, hopefully Joni is going to send this back out so I can have my play-by-play, because I think when you were showing the eggs, like for me, I just thought you just kind of stir that in, but I see that there's a technique to actually doing this to make it turn out the way that it should. And so I want to kind of go back and play this so that I can just kind of see how you do it. And I think that just kind of get me right where I need to be.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need, is that visual of somebody actually just walking you through it, and then you can become a pro.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say about this, we're talking about the holidays, and as Joni said, this year's going to look a little different. And I think that for a lot of folks, it might be, well, you know what, I'm not going to make anything special because I'm not going to have all my friends around and my extended family. But I say this is the perfect year to spoil yourself or to spoil those in your household by making this beautiful, simple, but elegant dish that will delight your taste buds and also delight your family. And we're gonna, you're getting this all set. We're gonna bring this all together in just a moment with what this could look like with a table setting. But anything else we should know before you send us away, Sabrina?
The last thing that I want to share is that when I grew up, my mom would often make spaghetti, and she would put the white undressed spaghetti on the plate and then pour the sauce over top of it. And that's what I've experienced mostly in America. But in Italy, when I lived in Italy, I lived there for 5 years, I learned that Italians like to toss their pasta with the sauce, and that helps to keep it separated, but it also helps the pasta, or allows the pasta to absorb the flavor of the ragu, of the sauce that you're using too. So it's really important to go ahead and toss your pasta with your sauce as soon as it's done, and then serve it pretty much right away if you can. And that's it.
There we go.
And here's the pasta, and you will see it plated up at the very end to grace the table once Nisha is done with her presentation. You're on mute, I think, or I am.
No, it's so funny.
It was me, sorry.
No, you're right. I was on mute. All I was saying was just like, man, I wish that I had smell-o-vision, because I know that it must smell absolutely amazing. And the thing about it is I still can't get over like how simplistic of a dish this is, but also how elegant it is. There's just something about making fresh pasta for yourself and for your family. So I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait.
Little Parmesan also goes a long way. Just the Parmigiano Reggiano. That's
I think I might load it on. That might be one of my favorite parts. All right, so guys, I think we've got to all the questions in the chat. There was one in here. Oh, how far from the restaurant do you deliver? That's the one that I missed.
Ooh, that's a good question. It is, I think it's a 5-mile radius within the restaurant. We do go through a third-party driver, and it's not available on DoorDash, but it is DoorDash service that we use. So you do have to order through our website, and then just request delivery. So I believe it's a 5-mile radius of within the restaurant.
Okay, awesome. And so we're going to move over to Nisha for table settings, but as you can see, Joni's getting all the information you need for Sabrina over in the chat. And I say that having the opportunity to make this yourself is amazing. And when we do open up, hopefully you'll meet me over at La Spiga, so that we can have Sabrina make this for us, and so we can torture her about how she pronounces this dish so amazingly well, because seriously, I'm still struggling on how to pronounce this dish. I'm sitting here hydrating with water. Maybe I should just have a sip of this wine to help me out. But as I was saying earlier, and Joni had mentioned this year, we are coming to the end of the year, and normally this time of year, I love with my family getting to go out and get a little bit of shopping done locally while listening to Christmas music, and also looking at holiday decorations, and just being able to be in stores around other folks and celebrate with friends, and exchange gifts with friends, and laugh and share wine with friends. And this year is very different. But at Frichette, we've looked at how we can still be able to celebrate love and celebrate with other folks and the folks that we want to cook for and have wine with. So we do a lot of this sort of stuff, Zoom. We do a lot of sharing and exchanging recipes and showing our dishes. And we will also get to make this particular recipe with our own family. I have an 8-year-old, and I always think about like how I can get him involved in the dinner, and having Christmas dinner that he gets to help make would be really cool. Now, pasta for us during the holidays is a little untraditional, but I can't wait to bring this into our family because it's kind of cool getting the opportunity. Uh-oh, sorry about that. So having the opportunity to introduce this as a tradition, I think would be a real treat. And not only is it about the food and about the wine, but what about what your table looks like? So if you're like me, usually I might have a candle on the table and maybe some fresh flowers. And when it gets to this time of year, you know, I don't have much to go out and pick from there. I don't have flowers that are in bloom. But what I learned from Nisha is that there's still so many amazing things that you can find outside that can add to your table. And so that's what I'm so excited about, and having her just, you know, share with us. So Nisha, we have an amazing pasta dish for our family. We have wine. How in the world are we going to create an amazing table with stuff we find outside? Take us there.
Hey, Shae, thanks for the intro. I cannot wait to meet you and taste your wine tonight. Revel 11, thanks for hosting. And Sabrina, who I got to watch sample her cooking. Grazie for having me in your restaurant, La Spiga, which is the perfect backdrop for this demonstration tonight. I want this to be super, super easy. I want it to be nature inspired, in this case, the Pacific Northwest. And I want it to make you feel good, okay? So I want to go simple. Anybody can do this. And let's start by talking about what you need. Obviously a table, right? Just a blank table is great. These wood tables are so beautiful that I wouldn't cover them with a tablecloth or a runner. So Pietro, if you're home watching, I know how proud you are of these, right, Sabrina? So, but you know, whether it's table for one, if you're having dinner alone or with one other person or a small family, I say use up all the real estate, okay? Make it feel special. Treat yourself to just a really lovely, lovely setting. So the next thing you'll need is a pair of clippers, a pair of scissors, some twine, and a good pair of walking shoes. The reason why I say that is I'm going to encourage people to go outside, even if it's wintry and raining, put on a coat, go into your garden if you have one, or into a neighbor's or a friend's. And if you don't have access to any garden, get in your car and go somewhere where you can go hiking and just start collecting things. You're not going to need a lot because I'm going to go simple. I know this looks like an abundance of stuff, but this time of year, we've got everything from evergreens like cedar and spruce to magnolia to camellia greens, which is really lovely, rosemary, sage. I want this table to be really wintry and savory. I want it to transcend all celebrations and religions. So I'm going to keep it green. If you are celebrating Christmas and you want to add a little bit of red, you can add some holly or some ilex berries or some pomegranates. But to start, what you're going to do is place your candlelight first. So if you have heirloom, vintage pieces of silver or crystal that you want to bring out, this is the time. Let's make it festive. If you have kids and you're concerned about a fire hazard, maybe you use a glass hurricane with a candle, a pillar candle inside. You want to set your table when the candles are not lit for the sake of not, you know, catching your shirt on fire or your blouse or anything like that, and anchor your table with the candles. So I'm going to do 3 for this purpose. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start layering greenery. This can be a family affair. You can bring in your kids. anybody can just join in, no experience required. What I will say is that if you start with the larger pieces, like this is magnolia, for example, just start placing things down. You can start from the middle and work your way out, or you can start from one end and work your way down. But I'm going to go with magnolia. Pieces should be cut about this length, maybe a foot, 14 inches or so. And you just lay them down, keeping in mind that you will have a place setting with your wine glasses. So depending on how wide your table is, kind of just want to gauge that. You can go as lush as you want or as minimalist. So got some camellia. You always want to have your stems facing the ends inward and the ends of the greenery outward. Also be aware of both sides of the table. For this demo, I'm going to do it kind of facing you for the demonstration. Maybe add a little bit of pine. So this is pine. You're kind of just doing like a runner down the length of the table. Oh, I love this. This is called cryptomeria. All of this is local. If any of the viewers are not from the Pacific Northwest, I'm a California girl. So when I think of doing a table for, let's say, winter solstice, you can use citrus, you can use olive branch, whatever is available in your part of the country. So next I've got some incense cedar. This can get just kind of layered in there as well. Texture is great. We've got pine. I don't know what kind it is, but again, you can kind of just, you can have things going off the end of the table if you want. Originally, I was going to do a garland, but that takes more product and more time. So this, I think, is something that anybody can do. Also, I want to mention on your hike, when you're out there, you come across some pine cones, you can nest those right along your greenery. You know, maybe 2 or 3. That. What else do we have? Oh, rosemary. You know, use herbs. This is kind of long. I might trim this down a little bit, but you can just put a sprig in like that. Just keep working this. I also have a little bit of sage. So that's kind of a nicer, more of a gray green. You know, I think people often have a tendency at the holidays to want to go, you know, over the top with their decor and make things super lush and everything. And I think for the sake of, you know, having things be a little bit more minimalist during a pandemic, you know, the saying of go big or go home. My motto this year is go small and stay home. Okay. So just, right?
Yeah.
Just make it simple. Oh, bay. I love bay. I'm super allergic to it. Makes me sneeze, but I can't resist it. So tuck that in there. You want to make sure you're nowhere near the flame, like I mentioned before. But this is a wonderful little soft greenery. You can bring in a little bit of height with it because it has some lyrical motion to it. So you can kind of tuck that in. And by the way, all of this can last for about 5 days. So once you have it in place, depending on how warm your home is, have a few dinners in a row. Practice that pasta dish and just, you know, keep making it.
Nisha, do you have any tips for how to dry this out and how to make sure you don't have any critters?
You know, I will mention on the camellia, when I cut this today, it did have a little bit of dirt on it from, I don't know if it's the rain or what. So I rinsed it and I dried it out, but everything else seemed really, really clean. The only thing you want to be mindful about is the resin and sap from evergreens. So, which brings me to a tool that I didn't mention before, but hand sanitizer, which I think we all have around this time of year during COVID, is the best thing to just remove that from your hands or off a table with a soft cloth. But as far as critters, I work with flowers all the time. I'm used to them. And the more I can work with organic stuff, the more I welcome a little ladybug here and there. But hopefully there won't be anything from things that are not growing close to the ground. So if you're trimming from a little bit higher on a shrub, you might have better luck.
Maybe just a
The only
little.
thing I am concerned about are if you use any fruits, for example, pears or apples, that if you get fruit flies, that's the one thing that's not fun to have. So I would remove things immediately. But as far as greenery, it's pretty benign in terms of bugs and aphids and things like that. So,
Well, here's the other question. Whose backyard did you get this out of? So we can go.
you want to know? Some of it came from my garden, some from a neighbor's. And then if you don't have access to that, I will have a resource listed on Rebel 11 of a great organic co-op down in Georgetown that provides everything from pine cones, actually to all of this, especially during the holidays. So you can check them out. They're called the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market. Or you can also contact us and we're happy to put together a bundle of greenery for you to purchase. And that makes it super easy. And we are doing contactless delivery. So it's not quite done until the candles are lit, right? So let me just light these. And then I do have some votives, which I always leave for the last part because they're quite low and you don't want, again, there to be any kind of a fire hazard. So we can light these up. And then I have one more little thing I just want to add to this, especially for kids. This could be really fun. If you want to embellish the table just a little bit more, you can take either a handful of chestnuts, these were organic ones, and just kind of nest them. I'm not going to do the other side, but I would typically, but a little bit here. Or walnuts are great in the shell, any kind of nut, even pecans. I actually never seen a pecan in the shell, but they're so beautiful. And you can just have those just kind of in the little pockets here, or cinnamon sticks tied with a little twine. You can have your kids bundle those up and just kind of tuck that in like that. I don't know how it looks from your angle, but again, you can go as high as you want with your greenery or keep it as low.
It looks beautiful, Nisha. And in the comments, there are some comments where folks are just saying, wow, this looks beautiful. We have a comment on just the aromatics that might be coming from this table. So it looks gorgeous.
Thank you. And it's so easy, right? Like anybody can do this. Lastly, take a little sprig of bay leaf or rosemary or cedar, roll up a napkin, little piece of twine or ribbon, stick your little greenery in there so that when you do your place setting, you have a nice little touch of aromatic, herbaceous greenery for that. And I think that's about it, but no table is totally done until you have the food and the wine, and then of course the people, right? Just sharing a meal together. That's what's the most important thing. And again,
Coming.
Yeah, come on.
Bring it on over. Woohoo!
Here's our pasta dish.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit jealous, and I'm sure this authentic, just amazing pasta dish. What's the garnish you have up there?
I'm so glad you asked. This is parsley from my garden. It's like the one thing that's surviving in the garden right now.
Oh, Sabrina, that looks absolutely amazing. And it looks gorgeous on this table. And the food must smell amazing. The table, oh my gosh.
Isn't that amazing? Look at that.
Yes. And of course, little Frichette.
I've been waiting for this all day. Actually, not all day, for the past.
Oh, wow. So, you know, even for something like this, I mean, you guys put this together, you know, we've been up here we've been 45 minutes. You've fresh pasta, you've made it, you put this table together. I think this is doable. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you out there, if you happen to do this, if you make this dish and you create this table beauty, please make sure you take a photo, tag Rebel 11 in it, because they're the ones that put this thing together. Make sure you tag La Spiga, and make sure you tag Nisha at Fleurish, because you've got to, oh yes, and put the wine in there too. Tag us all, because
Gotta give yourself
love to see this come together. Yes, I put in tag Frichette Winery as well. I would love to see if you do this. Allow us to be a part of it and really see how you've taken these tips and put it together. So let's do one quick round for, I'll tell you about the wine, any last minute things for the pasta, and then Nisha, any last minute tips for the table, and then we'll turn it over to Joni. So the wine again tonight, these ladies are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It is our Merlot. This is Frichette Winery. I'm one of the winemakers here. I love making Merlot, and it pairs so well with pasta, with especially red sauce dishes. And by the way, if you decide to purchase this for this entire week, you save 10% by using the promo code REBEL11. So order from FrichetteWinery.com, use the promo code REBEL11 to enjoy 10%. And Sabrina, any other tips or last minute things about the amazing, first off, you got to tell us how to pronounce it again.
So the Tagliatelle al Ragu, we are offering a Tagliatelle al Ragu kit. The offer was supposed to end today, but I'm going to extend that for a week for all of our guests joining us today. If you purchase the kit, you get $2 off of the total cost of the kit. So I will make sure that it's also Rebel 11 as the code. So go to our website, go to the store. I believe it's on the store. It may be on our, actually it may be on our takeout menu. So look at the takeout menu. The kit will be available, and you can order it with Ragu. If you're vegetarian or you prefer just a regular tomato sauce, it's available with that. If you love our truffle butter, we have that available as well. But I believe it's just the Ragu and Pomodoro that are available with the discount. So you can go to our website and try it out.
Awesome. Thank you. And Nisha,
Yes.
any last minute kind of tips?
Oh, last minute. Oh.
I know you were taken away by the aromatics of the stuff you
Wine has gotten to her already.
This is so delicious, Shae. And I was saying to Sabrina, it's so hard not to like hug her, you know?
We've known each other for years. Yeah,
23 years.
Yeah, well, we've 22 years we've been in business.
Wow.
And Nisha right there at the very beginning.
I used to go to the first place on Union and Broadway.
Yeah.
And just once a week. It was I couldn't resist. It was so good. So
well, you ladies are, you know, Nisha, I would love to get to meet you in person. For those of you watching, I've actually have never met Nisha, and Sabrina and I just completed the Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program through the James Beard Foundation. So we started that at the beginning of October, and this opportunity came along, and thanks to Rebel 11 and Joni for actually giving us this opportunity to get to play on this format. And I've always, you know, wanted to have like these amazing recipes that I can make for my family. And so this is a true gift to me and Nisha to have these tips of doing this, where I can, you know, I do have some pine trees here. I've never thought about using them to create a table like this. So I'm excited to do this for my own family. It's just the three of us, my husband, my 8-year-old, and me. But I think they totally deserve to enjoy an amazing dinner made from scratch and a beautiful table to bring it all together. So thank you, ladies, so much.
I'm going to give one more shout out because Shae, you and I know about each other. At least I know about you actually before the Well program through Marcia Jones. I'm going to give her a plug. She's on. She's actually viewing us now.
Yes, she is.
She is writing a book on Black winemakers throughout the world. And so I am contributing some recipes to that, and Shae and her wines, Frichette wines, are also featured in her book. So, so thank you, Marcia, for introducing us as well.
Together. Yeah.
Yes, and Marcia, I'll interrupt here. Marcia, if you'd like to send me information on the book and when that's coming out, I know we've talked in the past, but I would love to include that information on Rebel 11 because I think it's just such an amazing, beautiful project. So thank you.
Awesome. And Marcy's still on, so she's like, yes. Awesome. Well, I was going to just thank the ladies one more time. I thank everyone who popped in to join us. Again, make sure you take pictures and show us and let us know. And again, thank you, Joni, for bringing us together. This has been so much fun for me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, Shae, thank you so much for saying yes so enthusiastically. And Sabrina and Nisha, absolutely beautiful. I can't wait for my partner to make us pasta based on your recipe, Sabrina. And you know, Nisha, I'm going to go make that table tonight. Well, maybe not tonight, but I'm going to go grab some rosemary from the garden and some camellia. I never thought of camellia on the table. And what a lovely evening. I can't thank you all enough. And Shae, look at how quickly my wine is going down. For all of you who have joined us tonight, thank you for joining us on Rebel 11. We appreciate you, and this has been such a fun evening. The video will be available on our website in the next couple of days. So if you want more tips, you can just go back and see that. And I think this is the beginning of several things that we'll be doing together. So thank you. Happy holidays, everyone. If you'd like to see what holidays offered on Rebel 11, please go to our website. Have a lovely evening. Drink up. Cheers. Shae, lovely wine. So beautiful. I can't wait to see you in person. Sabrina and Nisha, you are so amazingly talented, and I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.